Hi, good evening, guys. Welcome to the second part of this. And yesterday we talked about how to perform under pressure. We had a discussion of the day one. Today is day two. We're going to take some important elements of this. So, yesterday we talked about the three truths of the pressure. One was that the pressure really disrupts the value, the what we value the most. Second truth was that the people who handle the pressure best, they rise to some occasion which is not true. And third is that you can simply need to leverage your natural pressure management tactics to handle it. Today we are going to talk about some of the important elements of sabotaging force of the pressure. But before I go into this, I just want to highlight one question which I received on the Facebook by one of my friends, Raman Dhiman. He asked that now, because of this coronavirus, people are working remotely. People are working, digitally, and they're interacting, remotely. So, how do you manage customer relationships in these kind of situations? It's a very important question because all of us are going through those phases. Some of you must also be managing, excellently. But just to share some key points, what we do in these customer relationships mostly is about all relationships, and there is a certain kind of mindset which gets developed when we are interacting them face to face, or probably we are exchanging energies. It's always exchange of energies between two people, so it's a particular mindset which allows you to exchange energies in a certain kind of an atmosphere. Now that atmosphere is changing. In past, if you see, there were people who used to make pen friends. They used to exchange emails, fall in love, even get married, and also did a lot of things remotely, which means that it's not true that you cannot manage and create new relationships. The third thing I would like to mention is that there's a rhythm of your own mind, the rhythm of your own body, which needs to also find a new kind of a rhythm in this space where you're interacting and finding new peoples to meet and manage. And it also involves a lot of imagination of your own self, because you may have to imagine people by their voices. You may have to imagine people, what they would be thinking about. So it is all about making more deeper relationships. The process might be slower, but I sincerely and truly feel that you would be able to establish and create more better and deep relationships because you will be focusing very heavily on that. So I hope I gave some insights on that. Now let's move on to the sabotaging force of the pressure we are talking about. See, one of the Harvard Professor Gardner research suggests in the book that teams like to think they do their best when the stakes are highest, when the company's future or their own future rests on the outcome. But that is not what really happens. In extensive studies of the teams, what they are talking really is that what teams get caught up is a risk of failure rather than the requirements to excellence. And she found in one of the research and teams is they face significant performance pressures. And the most important thing which I liked about this point is that they start deferring to the high status members at the expense of using expert teams, and that is what they call performance pressure paradox. Now, how it develops, the author also describes it as the pressure mounts, the team members drive towards a consensus in a way that shut out the vital information without realizing that they will give more weightage to a shared knowledge and dismiss spatial expertise such as insights into the client's knowledge, culture, aspirations, and then they generally get inclined to more generic thinking, and they come out with a lot of mediocre solutions. I can take one example that because of this COVID in China, a lot of businesses face a lot of challenges. A lot of entrepreneurs face challenges, and most of them started making these face masks. The reason was that there was a lot of shared information available. People were under a lot of pressure to lose money and businesses, and they started shifting to this kind of business by creating enormous amount of capacities even without thinking that what will be the future in that. So it is the pressure which actually allows you to shift to a cohort kind of a thinking, that you start ignoring the real expertise in this. Then this book also mentions that, a very important point, that most of our kids are in the teenage, and some of you must be have experienced the same earlier as well. Then, why do smart kids cheat? On the surface, it doesn't make sense because they're bright enough to get ahead honestly. We now understand enough about brain science to lay some of the blame on biology. But one of the important things which came is that teenagers may cheat or do drugs or drive too fast because partly their sense of thrill outweighs the sense of the risk. And a lot of studies were done in Europe and US to actually establish those kind of facts. And they also feel that people take higher risk, and they under the pressure situation they resort to some with the unethical practices as well. So that's the change it actually does on the mindset. So it also mentions that the more plausible explanation put forth by educators and psychologists is that cheating is caused by pressure. And with intensity to do well on the tests comes pressure to cheat. So even these kind of things do happen. So it really affects our mindset sometime. Then now the next thing comes is the another pressure we always are now feel is that technology increases the expectations that we need to be 24/7. Everyone expects us to respond to an email or a WeChat or a WhatsApp message immediately, and somehow if we don't do, then we feel that as I am falling behind. And this also creates a pressure spikes into our whole thinking process. So I think, we are developing deeper into this book, which will, by the time we finish it, we will have a better understanding of pressure from multiple sides. So when the pressure spikes like this, people start feeling I'm not getting enough done and I feel overwhelmed. And it also starts impacting their personal relationships, because sometimes if someone sends you a message and you have ignored the message, probably you have not seen it, you've not seen the message for maybe 1 hour or half an hour, and someone puts a question mark or says that you have not responded to me, immediately your behavior changes because you start feeling the pressure of the question being asked to you, and the pressure anxiety is that everyone expects you to respond immediately. So pressure has different forms. What I'm trying to say through this medium of this book is that it is affecting us in different ways and the forms. Then one of the important things which I would also like to talk, which is the Hobbs Myth. And it's a myth related to, most of us share this perception that, there are a lot of folks in the sports and who share and who have the nerves of steel. They can perform under high pressure. And those of who follow cricket, we say that MS Dhoni can have the steel of nerves even in the highest, most pressure situations. And he can win a lot of matches for India, and he has done so. But if you look at his statistics and records, he almost does the same what he does on average as a career. It's just that he's able to disregard pressure and able to perform in the same way. And pressure makes a great pressure makes sports a great entertainment. There's a lot of films are also made on it, and that's why a lot of things are done around it. Now, just to quote that, from my personal experience, I and my son play a lot of video games which is related to the cricket. And when we are chasing or where we are setting the target, of course, the fear of failure or the target which you set in your mind starts affecting your mindset very accurately. And then, in order to wave off the pressure, sometime you have to feel that, this is not the end of the world probably. And then how do you progress and make the progress ahead? So there are different mechanisms which we're going to talk about, and then I would also talk about the next thing which we liked a lot was the pressure and the top 10%. So they say that whether it is sports or your real life or whatever situation you are in, if there is a simple direction for performing to your capability in a pressure moment, it is to minimize the injurious effects of the pressure. That's all. You have to minimize the injurious effects of the pressure. Since it is impossible to live a life without pressure, the key is to negotiate your reaction to it. I was listening to someone's video somewhere, and they mentioned event plus response is equal to the outcome. There's a lot of events may happen into your life, but how do you respond to it defines the outcome. And therefore, even in the pressure situation, it's like Newton's law is action is equal and opposite to the reaction, right? So if you're getting the pressure of highest amount, if you reverse it the same way, if you respond in the same way, then probably there could be chances that it may affect you badly. So the key is to negotiate your reactions. And we can't change, the book says we can't change how much pressure people are going to feel, but we can change how they deal with that pressure by providing them with a learning on how to be more effective under the pressure situations. And now it also talks about that how do you manage further things. So key point is that how do you negotiate yourself to be in those top 10% part. So this is what actually is today, and I hope you liked about. Tomorrow we are going to talk into the stress of the pressure. Now we are talking about the power of the pressure, the chapter 1. And today we discussed about how you negotiate it, what are the key elements, or Hobbs Myth, and also the sabotaging force of the pressure. I hope you will enjoy this podcast. Do send in me your any queries, and would like to hear from you. Thank you so much. Good night.